Guys, we're back with another NBA mock draft. Michael Bolton, he wants to hear all about it.
Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and I am the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com and at Yahoo Sports Australia. And you can find me on Twitter as always at redrock_bball and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. The team reviews are done. We're flipping it over to the 2020-2021 season. For those of you watching on YouTube, new look to the show, just freshen things up for a new season. And we're here to dig right into the NBA draft. Today, we're going to kick things off with a mock draft, which I can guarantee a large portion of you are going to hate because I decided to change things up a little bit with the mock draft. And then tomorrow, we're going to have Mike Gribinov of the Stepien on, and then we're just going to be having draft analysts on, talking about the draft, different prospects, different perspectives, so you get a full overview of these players coming in, then we'll tie it all together for dynasty value for these players once the NBA draft rolls around. But as I said, I think you're going to hate this mock draft because I tried to really dig into what do I think is valuable. Not like, does this prospect have super potential and he's the guy that everyone thinks should be in this spot. I looked at it, tried to dig into it, and I'm still going to have more mock drafts and refine my decision as I talk to more people over this process. But this draft does change up a little bit from where I've been in the past. And again, if you hate it, please comment below. I want to know everyone telling me everything that I'm wrong about in this mock draft. I took a few risks with it, but before I go into talking about those risks that I did take with it, I think it is important to note that when we look at drafts, we look at these guys and everyone, man, the 10th pick, going to be an all-star. There's 10 guys here who are going to be stars. And I think it's important to realize that that's just never the case, really. Unless we're talking 2018 where you had Luka Doncic, Trae Young, Jaren Jackson, DeAndre Ayton, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander as guys who potentially can be stars. You just don't really get that many good players coming out of a draft. So what I decided to do here is go through and have a look at the last 5 drafts and the top 5 picks. So in 2019, we had Zion, we had Ja Morant, RJ Barrett, DeAndre Hunter, Darius Garland. Just remember this, when the top 5 picks go off the board, that they're not all going to be stars. Zion and Ja, sure. Barrett, he was all right. DeAndre Hunter, I wouldn't call him a star. I don't even know if he's going to be a solid NBA starter. Darius Garland, similarly. So if you're picked in the top 5, it's no guarantee of success. And you'll see that be the case through most of these years. 2018 is a little bit different. DeAndre Ayton at number 1, Marvin Bagley at number 2. Obviously, that's been a disaster of a pick. Maybe he turns into a solid player. He hasn't been so far. Luka Doncic at 3, Jaren Jackson at 4, Trae Young at 5. This is the exception this draft. 2021 might be an exception as well, but this is an exception in terms of good players that you get into a regular draft. 2017, remember this draft. Markelle Fultz went at number 1. Lonzo Ball went at number 2. Jason Tatum at 3, Josh Jackson at 4, and De'Aaron Fox at 5. Well, obviously Tatum, we know how good he is. We know how good Fox is. Lonzo, bit disappointing. Fultz, massively disappointing. Josh Jackson, somehow even more disappointing. So 3 out of those top 5 players have nowhere near lived up to those expectations of being a top 5 pick in an NBA draft. In 2016, we had Ben Simmons at 1. We had Brandon Ingram at 2. Okay, Ingram took 3 years to get there, but he was a pretty strong player. Simmons has been good immediately. Jaylen Brown at 3, a solid enough pick. Number 4 was Dragan Bender. Number 5 was Chris Dunn. The player coming after those guys, Jamal Murray. So just remember, again, the top 5 picks is no guarantee of success for these guys. In 2016, you had Karl Anthony Towns at number 1. Unbelievable pick. Great player. Number 2, D'Angelo Russell. Pretty solid. Number 3, Jali Okafor. I'm not too happy about that one. Number 4 was Porzingis. And then at number 5, I forgot this, but number 5 was Mario Hezonja. So again, we're looking at 3 of the first 5 picks here being good players. Towns, Porzingis, and Russell. Okafor and Hezonja struggling. So remember that. When you look at mock drafts, when you look at the actual draft, when you look at this mock draft and you see players picked here, this is no guarantee. A player picked at 9 or 10, you're lucky if a player picked at 9 or 10 on average becomes an NBA rotation player, let alone a starter, let alone a star. It happens. Gilgeous-Alexander, Tyler Hero's developing, Bam Adebayo from that area, Donovan Mitchell from that area. It happens. But that's one guy versus in the majority of players in those areas who just can't hack it. And even top 5 players can't become those sort of guys. So let's do it. We're going to cover all 60 picks here in the NBA draft. So we're going to go a little bit quicker than we have in previous mock drafts. But before I do that, let's just talk about Built Bar, because you're going to need energy to get through this podcast. Built Bar is the best tasting protein bar that you can find. It tastes just like a candy bar, and they've brought in 6 new flavors to go with their original 12. Caramel brownie, cherry barcia, cookies and cream, apple almond crisp, carrot cake, and lemon almond cheesecake join the stable of flavors for these candy bars who are masquerading as protein bars, or maybe it's the other way around. They are covered in 100% chocolate. They're soft and easy to chew. Low calorie, low sugar, high protein, and high fiber. Built Bars are healthy and great for someone looking to lose or maintain weight. Their Cherry Barcia bar has 17 grams of protein and only 130 calories and just 4 grams of sugar. And if you go to BuiltBar.com and use the promo code LOCKEDON, you'll get 20% off your next order. Use that promo code LOCKEDON for 20% off at BuiltBar.com. All right, so let's go into these mock drafts now, these picks. And you see I'm going to have... if you're watching here on YouTube, you're going to have 5 picks up on the screen at once. At number 1, the Minnesota Timberwolves. Nothing changes. Through all 5 of my mock drafts, LaMelo Ball is going at 1. You might question the fit with D'Angelo Russell. I question whether D'Angelo Russell is actually a high-level point guard that you want to build around. He's there. I think they can fit together. Melo is 6'7", so he can play off the ball. He can play on the ball. So can Russell at 6'5". Melo's passing ability, probably the number 1 skill out of anybody in this entire draft. The shooting has some worries. I think it can get there. Defense, I think, can get to a passable level as well. I've got him at number 1. I've had him at number 1. But remember, a number 1 pick in this draft is not a number 1 pick from last year. It's not a number 1 pick from next year. In fact, it's probably not a number 5 pick from next year. This draft is very, very weak in terms of top-end talent. Quite a lot of rotation players who are good. A really flat draft, but really not that upper-end talent. At number 2, the Golden State Warriors hold that pick. I'm taking Killian Hayes of Ratio Farm Ulm. Again, you could say, well, the Warriors don't need a point guard. They've got Steph Curry. They've got Klay Thompson in the backcourt. Behind those guys, you're looking at Jordan Poole or Damian Lee. Steph and Klay aren't super young, 30 plus. And Killian Hayes, to me, is the second best player in this draft class. So I just want a guy who a team who is as good as the Warriors can come in, who can play with Steph, can play with Klay, can be a solid passer. I think his shooting's going to get there. His pull-up shooting is already really strong. I think he can defend well. His athleticism has taken big leaps forward over the last year or so. So I have Killian Hayes as the second best player in this draft class. Hence, he's going at number 2 there. And I don't think too many people will be surprised that I have him there. Again, you're all going to hate that. You're going to say they're going to take someone else in that spot. But Killian Hayes, to me, at number 2 is the way to go. Here is where things get a little bit wild, because at number 3, Onyeka Okongwu, I've got going to the Charlotte Hornets. Okongwu is only 6'9". Maybe he's only 6'8". Bam Adebayo is 6'8". Now, I'm not saying that he is Bam Adebayo, because he's not, but there are hardly any centers you will find in this draft that can be as good as a pick and roll threat, as good as a switchable defender out under the perimeter, who can protect the rim as well, who's got a little bit of equity to improve his shooting and his passing. His passing is not good, but I think that can improve. But a guy who is completely plug and play, a guy that I think can be a modern NBA center, who can really play strong defense across multiple positions and protect the rim and be a good piece on offense. I have got Onyeka Okongwu going there. He almost definitely won't get to that level. He averaged 16 and 9 with almost 3 blocks and over 1 steal this year. At 6'9", really strong body. He's not Bam, because he's not that passer, and you're never going to run things through him like you did with Bam Adebayo. But in terms of a modern center who can switch and get out, that's why I've got Okongwu there. Can interchange a little bit with PJ Washington there in Charlotte as well, who I think can be center and power forward. They can both take those minutes as those smaller, more mobile centers. So that's why I've got Okongwu going there. At number 4, the Chicago Bulls. I've got taking Deni Avdija from Maccabi Tel Aviv, a small forward. And just let's get this out of the way. If you think that Deni Avdija is the second coming of Luka Doncic, I will assure you, you are wrong. That is not how it works. Because he's a white player who's the best player from Europe, he is not the best He is not Luka Doncic, literally the best European prospect we've ever had. He's not even the best player in Europe, which Luka was at that age. Denny is nowhere near that. He can pass. He can be a pretty strong cutter. His shooting is rough, and I guess that's some of the concern for Avdia is what happens with the shooting. Like, he's not a guy that has shown an ability to knock down shots consistently. I think he tries really hard defensively. I think that his passing is strong, but you don't want him to be the number one option on your team in terms of distributing. He's not a point guard like that. His numbers don't wow you. 9 points in 21 minutes. In the EuroLeague, he played just 14 minutes a game and averaged 4 points. He shot 28% in the EuroLeague. But the problem is he cannot hit free throws. And that is a terrible indicator for an ability to be a shooter in the NBA. His best position probably is the 4. He can play the 3. The Bulls do need a small forward, a wing type player. To me, he's not a superstar. He is a solid rotation piece. Maybe he is a Chetty Osman type player. He's probably a little bit better than that. Maybe he's a Michael Carter-Williams type player, a ball handler who can be a solid defender who can't shoot with a bigger body. But I don't really rate... there's talk of the Warriors going for him at 2. I don't really see him as being that sort of a player. And then at number 5, it is Blunty. Where are you now? The Cavs have picked number 5, and I've got them taking James Wiseman, the center out of Memphis. Really hard to know what to expect out of Wiseman because he played 3 games. He could be great. There's no doubt about that. He averaged 3 blocks in 23 minutes. He averaged 20 points and 11 rebounds. The quality of the opponents that he played against in those 3 games was pretty low. His passing is bad. His defensive ability, outside of literally just protecting the rim, is pretty poor. He can't switch. He can't deal with pick and rolls. He hasn't shown an ability to shoot yet. Maybe that comes, maybe that doesn't. His free throw rate was amazing in those 3 games. He took 9 free throw attempts per game. I'm not sure that's a real thing. And his efficiency was fantastic too. He's got great athleticism, but is he a player that turns into a worse DeAndre Jordan? Maybe. Maybe that's who he is. Could he turn into Hassan Whiteside? Maybe. But I think part of the reason why I don't have him higher than this is I just don't know. I don't know where the offense goes, but also just don't want to spend big draft capital on a center who is like this, who can't switch, who can't play defense. If I'm going to take a center, I want someone like a Okongwu, someone who can switch out. Wiseman, I think I can find centers around who can approximate what he does. I don't think he's going to be Karl Anthony Towns or Joel Embiid or Nikola Jokic or those sort of centers who can be real game changers. I think he's going to be a middle of the range type center. Maybe he beats that expectation. There's a real chance that he does. But I'm not expecting that. Yes, the Cavs do have Andre Drummond. He's got 1 more year left. He's 26 years of age. I really worry about Drummond's fit in the modern NBA. I worry similarly about Wiseman's fit, but I think that they could take him, they could let him develop for 1 year, and then they could just let Drummond leave. They didn't pay anything to get him in a trade. Drummond could go, and then Wiseman moves into that starting role as of next season, where Kevin Love could be gone, Tristan Thompson's gone, Larry Nance is older. So I think that's more for that move in the future and see what they do with Andre Drummond after that. So that's the top 5. Melo, Killian Hayes, Onyeka Okongwu, Denny Avdia, and James Wiseman. The next one, at number 6, you'll notice a name has been missing from that top 5. At number 6, I've got Anthony Edwards, the shooting guard out of Georgia. And to be honest with you, I'm not even sure this is the right spot. The more I look at him, the more I watch, the more I hear, the less interested I am. Really inefficient. He's got that body where he was able to dominate college level players pretty easily because of his super strength. He was able to come out and just smash guys up. He averaged 19 points a game in 33 minutes, but shot 29% from 3. He averaged under 3 assists. He got 1.3 steals. He got past guys by being super strong and fast. And in the NBA, I don't think that's going to cut it. Poor shot selection, questionable IQ. Defensively, I think he's going to be okay, but cannot pass, cannot shoot. What are we doing here? Maybe he develops into Victor Oladipo. Maybe he develops into Dion Waiters. That's a scary proposition to be taking at number 1 or number 2. And number 6, I'm not sure about. Now, on a team like Atlanta, John Collins, Trae Young, these guys are going to get more offensive opportunities. So he's going to get an opportunity, Edwards, there to focus more on defense and to taking the right shots. He's not going to be that guy who has to be the number 1 option. But how does he function in a situation where he doesn't have the ball in his hands? That's what I worry about. He feels like a player that needs the ball in his hands, but as a team, you don't want him to have the ball in his hands. Therefore, that could be a real problem. And I'd look, in the end, if we did a redraft of this draft in 2 years' time, I wouldn't be surprised to see Anthony Edwards outside the top 12. That's why I've slid him down. At number 7, I've slid this bloke up. At number 7 is Kyra Lewis Jr., the point guard, Alabama. Detroit needs a point guard. In real life, Killian Hayes will probably slide here, and there's no way they should let him fall. In fact, any team after number 2 shouldn't let Killian Hayes fall. But I'm taking Kyra Lewis here for the Pistons. They need that point guard. Lewis has been impressing me a lot more in my research and watching of him lately. He played 38 minutes a night. He averaged 19 points. He's probably the fastest player in this draft. 5 assists and 2 steals. I worry a little bit about his finishing. He's quite slender. He's 6'3", so he's got height, but he's very skinny. I don't know if he's going to be able to push to the rim enough and draw enough free throws, but he shot 37% from 3 on almost 5 attempts per game. He got you those 5 assists and 5 rebounds and almost 2 steals. The size is a real problem, but the speed is interesting. I think we can develop some passing. I think he can become a reliable enough shooter that he's going to make sense there. So I've jumped him ahead of other point guards that many of you would have ahead of him in Tyrese Halliburton, which we'll talk about a little bit later. At number 8, going to the New York Knicks, is Devin Vassell of Florida State. Now, that troubling video of Vassell came out of him changing his shooting motion, so I don't know what the hell to make of that. I had Vassell up at number 4 in one of my previous mocks. Got him down at number 8 here, a low-usage player who was a really good three-point shooter and a really strong defender. I have some concerns, I guess, with him as a defender. Given his size, he's not super strong. He's 6'5", which is good, but he's 180 pounds. I don't know if that's actually strong enough. He hit 42% of his threes. He got 1.4 steals. He averaged 13 points per game in 29 minutes, but as a low-usage player next to Julius Randle, next to RJ Barrett, providing defense along with Mitch Robinson on this Knicks team, I think that would make sense to me. But I really worry about what the hell is going on with that shooting form, because if that's not right, if he has tinkered with it too much and it doesn't work, then this is going to be a disaster of a pick. So there's a little bit of concern there for me. At number 9, the Wizards go with Isaac Okoro, the wing out of Auburn. Okoro, strong defensive stuff from him, no doubt about that. Can the offense ever get there? I guess that's the question we all have for Okoro. He played 32 minutes a night and he averaged only 13 points and shot 29% from 3 and 67 from the line. They are real concerns. 0.9 steals, 0.9 blocks. He's got a bit of the I'm a good defender but doesn't get defensive stats sort of numbers. One thing I think is really impressive with him is an ability to pass. So can he become a guy that averages 4.5 assists in the NBA? I could see that. And I think there is some scope for him to become a better offensive player. Could he become Kawhi Leonard, Jimmy Butler? Probably not. In all honesty, 98% of people aren't going to do that. But he's got, I guess, the basis to maybe work into that. Pretty strong finisher as well. So you're taking a wing player. Their wings are always going to be valuable, and you see a lot of those decisions influencing me in the draft here. And at number 10, Patrick Williams out of Florida State goes to the Phoenix Suns. Williams is 6'8". I think he's probably more of a 4 than a 3. But again, just getting a wing player in who can switch up. I don't think Kelly Oubre is long for this team. There's Bridges, there's Cam Johnson, but getting another mixture in here, another guy like Williams who can play. They can go all wings with a Booker, Bridges, Johnson, Williams type lineup at times. He's only 19, he's super young, and he only played 23 minutes a night. But what I'm encouraged with is the shooting, 84% from the line. He is able to get a steal and a block per game in 23 minutes. Now, I don't know how much of this is influenced by the fact that he comes from Florida State, but there are some shades of Jonathan Isaac with him. He's nowhere near that level of defender, but the offensive upside, some length, a wing/4, who can block shots, who can get some steals. That's really encouraging to me. Decent enough strength, can get to the rim as well. I think there's a lot of upside there. It's going to be a slow one, but the Suns don't need that at this point. They just get a solid enough rotation piece to come in. I think in a couple of years' time, he's going to be a really, really useful player. Next up at number 11 is my mate Alexei Pokusevski going to the Spurs, coming from Olympiacos. Pokusevski is a 7-foot point guard in the body of a grasshopper. Really ridiculously skinny, ridiculously weak in terms of strength, but is a shooter. He will bomb threes, he will get assists, he handles the ball, he rebounds, he blocks shots, he gets steals. If it works out, he's probably a top 3 player in this class. The risk of it not working out is definitely there. But taking him here, he can play at the 4, he will shoot, he will pass, he will do audacious stuff with the ball and his ball handling and his passing ability. We see Nikola Jokic with the ball in his hands here, bring it up and go round behind the back. Pokusevski will go between his legs, over his head, his spot guys up, bang threes. He's just never going to go down low. And he's not able to do that. And defensively, he can be a problem. But as a weak side shot blocker, fantastic. Banging in threes, dishing dimes. A real absolute weird player. But love it. Love the upside there. At number 12, I've got the Sacramento Kings taking Tyrese Haliburton out of Iowa State. Now, Haliburton's numbers, people will look at them, and a lot of the advanced models like him. And they'll go, well, he shot 42% from 3. He averaged 6.5 assists with 6 rebounds and 2.5 steals. And that is all very, very true. And that makes him really interesting from a fantasy perspective. 6'5" guard. But I don't want him to be a point guard. Can he actually create his own offense? Can he get to the rim? Can he shoot pull-up threes? And I think the answer to all those things is no. So, taking him at pick 3 or pick 5 or whatever it is, making him, well, you are our point guard now and you have got to run things. I don't think that works. I think he's got to be a secondary creator off the ball, a guy that can work as a catch-and-shoot shooter rather than a pull-up shooter, a guy that isn't required to set up an entire offense and to generate an entire offense. I don't think he can do that. Defensively, I think he's pretty good, even though he is quite slender. 174 pounds isn't all that strong. But as an off-ball guy, playing alongside De'Aaron Fox, taking over from De'Aaron Fox, taking that Corey Joseph role, I think it would work for Sacramento. But I wouldn't want to place too much individual offensive creation responsibility on Tyrese Haliburton. Number 13 is Rj Hampton. Going to the Pelicans, he is a point guard, shooting guard type player who played down in New Zealand this last season in the NBL. 21 minutes a game. He averaged just 9.6 points and shot 29% from 3. Some real troubles there. He has changed his shot and he's changed it for the better. So that's an improvement. The steal numbers were good. I think his pick and roll stuff is impressive enough to be a combo guard, not necessarily a lead ball handler. The shooting is still a worry, but I think his ability to get defense is there. His athleticism is great. Again, not even 20 years old at this stage. Some real upside to play alongside Lonzo, to replace Drew Holiday maybe at some point as a 1-2 combination, but he's still a way away from it, and the Pelicans don't really need that at this point, and he'd be sort of battling Nickeil Alexander-Walker as that backup combo guard. Another name that many people will have literally at number 1 or number 2 or number 3 is Obi Toppin, and I've got him going at number 14, the power forward out of Dayton, going to Boston. He is old, right? He is not a young player at all. In fact, I've got a sound just for that, if I can just find my button. You're just mad because your ass is old. He's 22. He's going to be 23 next season. He really stepped it up this year, but when guys step it up at age 23, I worry about what were they doing as freshmen and sophomores. Like, why weren't they as dominant? That is always a concern. He averaged 20 points per game. Great. He shot 39% from 3. Fantastic. Under 3 attempts per game. 7.5 rebounds, 1.2 blocks, 1 steal, but they're all good numbers, but he played for Dayton. He was older, and his defense is horrible. I don't care about those defensive numbers. He's not going to be a good defender. His agility and his lateral movement is horrible. He had to be that number 1 player in terms of offense, and he could be a very good offensive player. Some people have compared him to Amari Stoudemire. Again, that is 1% or 99% outcome situation here for Top, and I don't see him getting here. Is he going to be just a guy who's an offense-only power forward, whose probably best position is center, but then doesn't have the defensive ability to play center? I worry about how that actually works. So I would never want to spend a pick, a 23-year-old guy, a big man who's stuck between positions, who can't play defense. And I'm not entirely convinced to be shot. To pick him in the top 4 or 5, I'm just not interested. Now, with Boston, he sits there. He plays alongside Grant Williams in second units. He can come in and be an instant offense sort of a player. I think that works perfectly for the Celtics. I just don't have that high hopes for Obi Toppin personally. At number 15 is Tyrese Maxey. I've got him going to the Orlando Magic. Maybe a little bit down on Maxey. I could easily see him going ahead of even Haliburton there at number 12. The Kentucky factor is definitely playing into it in my mind, because we know that guys are often stifled at Kentucky. He's a pretty good finisher. He's 6'2", so I'm a little bit worried about that as a 2, and I'm not sure his passing is good enough to be a 1. He averaged 14, 4, and 3. He shot just 29% from 3, but I think his finishing is strong. I think he can become a better 3-point shooter. He's a good free throw shooter. I think defensively, he's solid enough and give room to improve there. So that's my top 15. 11 is Pokusevski, Halliburton at 12, RJ Hampton at 13, Obi Toppin at 14, and then Tyrese Maxey at 15. Let's start to quicken these up now, otherwise I'm going to be here all day. At number 16, Portland, I've got taking Cole Anthony, who is sliding down a lot of drafts at the moment with some troubling reports coming out about, I guess, just some teammate stuff, which is weird because I'd never heard that before. I don't really fully buy into it. I'm just not sure where Anthony sits. Highly regarded high school prospect, struggled at North Carolina. A lot of that was to do with spacing. I think he can be solid enough. Could he come in and take minutes away from Anthony Simons in Portland? Well, I think with how Simons played last year, that they'd probably like that. He's 6'3", he shot 35% from three, took a lot of attempts. The overall field goal percentage is poor. That's largely to do with the structure of the team around him. Solid enough. I worry about his creation, though, as a point guard, outside of self-creation. Can he set up others? Can he run an offense? At this point, probably not. 17, Saddiq Bey, a wing out of Villanova. Bey is a small forward, power forward, 6'8" guy who is older. He's going to be 22 next season. He shot 45% from three and scored 16 points per game. Defensively, the stats aren't really there. I worry about his defense. I think the shooting is pretty strong, but I worry about what he's going to do defensively. I think there are some concerns there with him there. The age is a bit of a worry. I don't know if his decision-making with the ball in his hands is the best either, but at 17, it's worth a pick. Number 18, going to the Mavericks. I think I said Saddiq Bey to the Mavericks. He was actually to the Timberwolves. Number 18 is Xavier Tillman from Michigan State. Going to the Mavericks, another really smart center who can shoot the three ball, who can pass, who's a really, really good defender. And even if he isn't a long-term starting center, which on this team, maybe he doesn't need to with Porzingis there, but a Tillman-Porzingis combination, I'd be all for it. He shot 1.6 threes per game, only made 26% of them. I think that can improve. 14 and 10, 3 assists per game in 32 minutes, over 2 blocks, 1.2 steals. So if you want to talk maybe Bam Adebayo analogs, Tillman's not a bad one. Now, he's a little bit undersized at 6'8", but I still think playing alongside Porzingis, he's still got an ability to block shots. He can pass. He can run things from a center position. I really like that, and easily he could jump ahead of Anthony and Bey here in this mock draft. At number 19, Aaron Nesmith of Vanderbilt going to the Brooklyn Nets. Nesmith, a guy that shot an otherworldly 52% from three this year. He averaged 23 points per game for Vanderbilt. He's 21, so a little bit on the older side. The shooting is strong. I'm not sure what else he's going to do. I'm not sure he can get to the rim. I'm not sure he's got any sort of other offensive skills in terms of passing. He averaged under 1 assist per game. I think he can be a strong enough defender, but realistically, he's a 3-and-D wing. Let's hope the D holds, and let's hope that he can continue to be as good of a shooter that he was. And at number 20, it's Grant Riller, the shooting guard out of Charleston, a guy who is older again, but this is a Miami team that has no problem with developing these players. Duncan Robinson, Kendrick Nunn. Riller is 6'3". His scoring ability is unbelievable, averaged 22 points per game. Shot 36% from three. Didn't really take many threes. I'd like to see him do more of that. He can create a little bit. His defense is a problem. But I think in this spot, looking at him at number 20, getting a player who can come in and be a real, microwave type scorer off the bench. Can he develop into a starter? I'm not sure. But developing as a scorer off the bench, absolutely worth that spot there for Miami at 16 to 20. On to the next group of players now. At number 21, going to the Philadelphia 76ers, I've got Malachi Flynn, a point guard from San Diego State, another guy who is a little bit older. He's 22 years of age, 6'2", 37% three-point shooter. I think the perfect fit for Philadelphia. Can challenge Shake Milton for that role. 5 assists, 1.8 steals. So defends well, can pass, can shoot, a willing shooter, a scorer. Whether he, at his frame, can work exclusively at that size and that position in big minutes remains to be seen. But he can get to the rim, he can score, he can shoot, probably a solid backup who can start on this Sixers team as well moving forward. I really like him in that spot. At number 22, I'm going with Leandro Bolmaro from Barcelona. Now, Bolmaro may not come straight across here to Denver. And this one, a guy that really struggles with the shooting, 28% from three, 68 from the line, but a strong passer, 2.5 assists in just 17 minutes. He averaged 8 points there. I think defensively, he can be okay. He's pretty good at getting steals, but his explosiveness is a problem. But having the ball in his hands, he can improve his shooting. He's a really strong passer. And I think he's going to improve. But he is 20. He's 6'7", so that gives him an advantage, I think, at that size. But some of his athletic problems could rear their head. But I think it's worth a look for a team that probably just can stash him for a year. At number 23, Tyrell Terry out of Stanford going to Utah. A 6'2" point guard, shooting guard type. I think he's more of a 2 than a 1 personally. 41% shooter. That's the real appeal for Terry. His defense could be a problem, but when you've got Rudy Gobert behind you, I guess that helps. Adding another shooter into the mix for a team that was running Emmanuel Mudiay at point guard. Could lose Jordan Clarkson as well. Terry can come in. You don't want him running your offense too much, but as a shooter on that 41%, 89% from the line, that's really intriguing for a guy that could be a 20, 21 minute a night player as we move forward. At number 24 is Josh Green, the Aussie from Arizona. He comes in here 6'6". Some of his shooting numbers are a little bit of a problem, but he is super athletic, gets to the rim, pushes, finishes well. I think defensively, he's pretty strong as well. I just worry about some of his passing ability, and I worry about the shooting. He hit 36% of his threes, but it's under 3 attempts per game. Realistically, we have the concerns of how he shoots at 20 years of age, but defensively, getting to the rim, I think there's some positives there. And at number 25, I'm taking Jalen Smith going to the Thunder, a power forward / center coming out of Maryland, 6'10", 20 years of age. He averaged 15 and 10 with 2.4 blocks. He can shoot a little bit, almost 3 attempts per game from three, 37%, 75% shooter from the line. He can switch. Okay, there's a chance that he can become a really strong big man. The problem is strength, and I mean strong in terms of quality of play, because he's only 210 pounds at 6'10", or 215, really skinny, moves well, but needs to put on some more strength, or needs to just become more of a long-range shooter. But there is some real scope for him to be a solid backup big man who at times, I guess, could play into center lineups. Next up is number 26, Robert Woodard of Mississippi State. I've got him going to the Boston Celtics. He's a 6'7" wing who shot 43% on his threes, averaged 11 points per game with a steal per game. Sort of a little bit of a tweener at 6'7". Block shots at a decent rate, can defend, can shoot somewhat. Would like to see more volume on the three-point shooting, and it doesn't really marry up with the 64% free throw shooting. But getting another wing in there with some shooting ability is what is important, I think, here for Boston. At number 27, the New York Knicks going with another guard, Théo Maledon, a point guard from Asvel in France. Maledon, a guy who I'm just not really sure about. He's quite slender again, 6'5". The passing looks okay. 2.7 assists in 17 minutes. That is strong. The shooting, I'm not sure about. The scoring ability, I'm not sure about. He can't really rebound. He just doesn't feel aggressive enough. Could he come in as like a guy that plays like Frank Ntilikina? Like that sort of level of offensive hesitance is a worry. But he's got some decent defensive ability and some good passing ability. I'm just not sure he's really got starter upside. 28, I'm going with Paul Reed, the power forward out of DePaul, going to the Los Angeles Lakers, a guy that's got a really strong statistical profile. He averaged 2.6 blocks and 1.9 steals for DePaul. Yes, quality of opposition's not great. 15 points and 11 rebounds. Now, if this works out, then that is a massive win there for the Lakers at number 28. He's got those numbers to be a super fantasy player if it all works out. I'm not convinced that it does. And the shooting could be a real worry for him. But if that gets figured out, along with the defensive stuff, which I'm not really sure, as a 6'9" power forward, there is some upside there for him. At 29, Desmond Bain, a really strong shooting guard out of TCU. I've got him going to the Toronto Raptors at 29. He scored almost 17 points per game and shot 44% from three. Really good shooter, can hit deep threes, scores well. He can pass a little bit. I think he's got some defensive concerns, but at 6'6", he's got the size. So I'm in on that. And then at number 30, a name which you could think you'll be a bit surprised to see, but it's because the Celtics got 3 first-rounders, so I wanted them to get a stash option. At number 30, it's Paula Bua, a small forward, power forward out of VL Pesaro over in the Italian league. Bua is an African player who's now Italian, who has been putting up okay-ish numbers. It might not ever work out for Bua there in the NBA, but he is a 6'8" power forward type player who in the 18 games that he played averaged 7 points. He shot just 26% from 3. Nothing super exciting, but some upside for him at the age of 20 to sit in Europe for a couple of years and then come over after that. Into the second round now. Just going to run through these ones. At number 31, the Dallas Mavericks taking Tyler Bay of Colorado. At number 32, people have got this bloke in the top 10, and I just do not see it. Number 32, Precious Achiuwa, the center out of Memphis, going to the Charlotte Hornets. I don't know what his feel is. I don't know what his defense is. I don't know what his offense is. I just don't see it. And if Wiseman hadn't have been suspended, he would have been stuck playing the 4 and looking completely out of position. I just don't see it with this guy to be any more than a backup at this point. At number 33, the Timberwolves taking Cassius Stanley, the guard out of Duke. Stanley, 6'6" guard who shot 36% on his threes. Interesting shooting guard type. At number 34, Isaiah Joe going to the Philadelphia 76ers. Joe was in the draft. He pulled himself out of the draft. Then he put himself back in the draft. The older Isaiah Hokey Pokey Joe. The shooting guard out of Arkansas, elite type shooter. That's what he is. That's what he provides. 34% shooting from 3, but almost 11 attempts per game. So when he doesn't have that sort of attention on him, he's going to be a much better shooter in the NBA, which is exactly what Philadelphia needs. And then at number 35, the Sacramento Kings taking Trey Jones out of Duke, Tyus Jones' brother. Solid enough point guard. Not sure you want him as a primary, but as a backup point guard who can play solid defense, sure, that works out for me. Next up at 36, Zeke Njaji. I'm sure I pronounced that incorrectly. A center out of Arizona going to the Philadelphia 76ers. I think there is some upside there for Njaji. But I'm not convinced that he is a starter caliber player. 0.9 blocks in 30 minutes doesn't really cut it. Decent enough shooting, 76 from the line, but only 29% from 3 unlimited attempts. Yeah, he's probably, look, all these second round guys, they're not going to look too strongly at them. The Wizards at 37 taking Peyton Pritchard, point guard out of Oregon. And then the Knicks going with another French point guard at number 38, Nico Mannion, point guard out of Arizona. Mannion, again, probably can be a rotation level player, but you wouldn't want him to be a starter. At 39, it's Cassius Winston, point guard from Michigan State, going to the New Orleans Pelicans. Then for the Memphis Grizzlies at number 40, Jordan Nwora, a wing out of Louisville. Nwora, not a guy I've had in my mock drafts before, but again, prioritizing wings, 6'7", 40% three-point shooter, 8 boards per game, attacks the rim, hits threes. I think that's sort of what you want from a wing, and that is a real priority position in the NBA. At 41, an upside pick here for the Spurs, Jaden McDaniels, the power forward out of Washington. Could be a complete bust, but could be an absolute star. I think we'd probably lean more towards bust, but he's got the physical potentials there. He's got an ability to hit threes. He can defend. His brother currently plays for Charlotte. Jalen McDaniels, just absolutely confusing names. Confusing names. Jalen and Jaden. This is Jaden. Probably a better prospect than what Jalen is, but not really sure where he fits. Passing is definitely questionable, and the shooting has a lot of work to go. At number 42, anyone heard of this bloke? Jay Scrubb. Yes, Jay Scrubb, great name. 6'5" shooting guard, 46% three-point shooter, attacks the rim, elite athleticism, 9 boards per game at 6'5", 1.6 blocks, 1.1 steal. But who did he play for? Logan? Who the hell is Logan? Yes, he played for Logan. Jay Scrubb, a guy coming from not your usual level, coming from the junior college ranks straight into the NBA, but that athleticism, that shooting, why not take a flyer? The Pelicans do here at 42. At number 43, Elijah Hughes, shooting guard out of Syracuse, goes to the Sacramento Kings. Hughes is a 6'6 wing who's a 34% shooter. Defense and threes, that's what we're looking at. And then at number 44, the Chicago Bulls take Devin Dotson, a point guard out of Kansas. I debated having Dotson a little bit higher. He is 21. He's undersized at 6'1". The shooting was a little bit of a worry. He's quick. He can defend okay, but I'm just worried about the passing, and I'm worried a little bit about his shooting numbers. At number 45, the Orlando Magic take Killian Tilly out of Gonzaga. Tilly would have been a lot higher than this, but he just hasn't been able to stay healthy. 6'10", really strong shooter, but who knows if he can stay healthy. He's got the ability to be a rotation player, maybe even an impact rotation player, but I just don't have the faith that he can actually stay healthy at this point. At number 46, Jameis Ramsey from Texas Tech. This guy, a lot of people rate him really high. They've got him listed as a point guard at 6'4". I don't think there's any way you want him to be a point guard. He is a strong three-point shooter, 43%, but can't hit free throws. And that worries me. 64% from the line. He looks like he can be a good three-point shooter. He was a good three-point shooter, but why can't he hit his free throws? I think defensively he's an issue. He just doesn't defend well at all. Can he get there? He's got that, well, look how athletic he is. Look at his body. He can be a good defender, but at this point, he isn't. So I need to see him prove that at this stage. Yeah, coming here to Portland, they give him an opportunity to develop for a year or two. I'm not that high on him, though. 47, Udoka Azubuike, a center from Kansas, going to Boston. Azubuike is a guy that, I think he put up some, he did put up some okay numbers this season, but I'm not sure how he fits as a modern NBA center. That's my worry for him. 6-10 years ago, he probably would be a top 10 sort of pick. He played 28 minutes a night, but he's a center. He averaged 13 and 11 with 2.6 blocks, but being able to move around on the perimeter is the concern. Same for Vernon Carey at number 48, center out of Duke. Got him going to the Golden State Warriors. Another guy who he's got the potential. He's got the ability to get there, but can he actually do it? I worry about his fit in the modern NBA. At number 49, the Philadelphia 76ers taking an international player, Abdoulaye Ndoye, shooting guard out of Monaco. Again, this is more the fact that they've got just so many picks, so just taking a couple of international guys to see where they fit. He's a 6'7 guard. Ndoye he's already started playing again this season, played 7 games, 20 minutes a game. And shooting 31% from 3, but last year he shot 43% from 3. That's the appeal for Ndoye. At number 50, Ashton Hagans out of Kentucky going to the Atlanta Hawks. At 51, the Warriors taking Yamada, a point guard from Hapoel Tel Aviv, Israeli point guard. Number 52, Miles Powell, the shooting guard from Seton Hall going to Sacramento. At number 53, Emmanuel Quickley, the guard out of Kentucky going to the Thunder. 54, Skylar Mays, a guard from LSU going to the Pacers. And then at number 55, Najee Marshall, the wing from Xavier. He's going to the Brooklyn Nets. And to round out the 60 pick, 2-round NBA mock draft, 56 is Daniel Atoro, the center from Minnesota going to Charlotte. Number 57, Rokas Jokubaitis, the point guard from Zalgiris Kaunas going to the Clippers. At 58, CJ Alabi, the wing from Washington State going to the Sixers. 59, Mason Jones, a guard from Arkansas to Toronto. And then with the last pick in the 2020 NBA mock draft is Marcus Howard, the shooting guard from Marquette. Highly prolific, but I'm not sure his size is going to cut it in the NBA. But he is going with the last pick to the New Orleans Pelicans. That's it. That's my mock draft. Tell me how much you hated. Tell me how stupid I am. Let me know what you think is wrong with this mock draft. We're never going to know. But I tried to mix it up a little bit at this point to say, hey, who do I actually like this player? Who do I think is a valuable NBA guy? And I tried to make it make sense that way. Let me know what you think. Who was unlucky to miss out on a pick in the top 60? What did I get right? What did I get wrong in your opinion? Subscribe Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and on YouTube. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.